Welcome back to Podiatry Marketing. I'm your host, Jim McDannald. Joined as always my trusty co-host, Tyson Franklin. Tyson, how's it going today?
I'm fantastic today, Big Jim. How you doing?
Doing well. Excited to jump in today's topic. What are we going to be talking about today?
We're not going to have any little banter or back chat or anything. No, okay, let's just get straight into it.
Let's do.
Let's just we'll surprise people with no banter this week. So we're going to dive straight in. We'll banter halfway through it. So today we're going to talk about a topic we have touched on before, but this one I want to get into a little bit more detail. And it's using audio to build your podiatry business. And the reason I want to touch on this is because audio is really just part of our life. And I don't think a lot of people realize how ingrained audio is in society. Just it's always been with us. So if you go way back a little bit, like commercial radio, so radio was invented before the 1920s, but commercial radio, as far as even advertising, things like that, started in the 1920s. So I'm going to give a bit of an audio history program here. So people will leave this episode and go, even if I do not use audio in any way, I'm going to use this in Trivial Pursuit or at a trivia night. So vinyl records were invented in the 1930s. Tapes in the 1960s. This one I think is really interesting. And most people, if you just ask this question, they would give a completely different year. But audio books were started in the 1970s.
Really?
Yeah. And when I first saw that, I went, really? But then you think back to when you used to get the little golden books as a kid, and the golden books came with a cassette tape.
Yeah.
And you would put the cassette tape in and you would listen to the cassette tape and you'd hear ding, and you'd turn the page. And then it would read through a little bit more to go ding, and you'd turn the page. So yeah, so audiobooks have been around, what's that? 50 something years. So it's not just the way that we think of audiobooks today, like on Audible, which is not a sponsor. So just let people know that. So CDs kicked off in 1982. I do remember that well. It was a big moment.
You forgot one really important one, though.
Oh, the 8-tracks. No? Is that one? The 8-track?
Yeah, 8-track.
Yeah, I didn't put that one in because that was sort of, that's a little bit. I do remember him. I remember getting in a friend's car once. He said, quickly, pass me another tape. And I'm going, what the hell is this big thing? Yes, 8-track. And he had an 8-track player in his car. So it looked like a VHS. For people that don't know, it looked like a VHS tape that you stuck in the dashboard of your car. And they melted really easily when you left them in your car.
That's awesome.
So MP3s started in the 1990s, and podcasting kicked off in 2004. Is about around when it started.
Nice.
So there's a history on audio in case you were wondering. So what I'm going to talk about is like the benefits of audio that most people don't actually think about. And this is why, like, as people who don't, I'm a huge fan of audio. You love audio, Jim. We love listening to our own voices on a regular basis. So, but the thing with audio, there's less fear than doing video. So I used to thought of putting a video camera in front of me. I used to pack my DACs. I tell you, I would just, I found it really, really difficult. However, put me in a room with a microphone and there was no one watching. I felt really, really comfortable with it. Didn't bother as much. Still didn't like listening to my own voice, which most guests tell me on the podcast. But to actually just be able to produce it myself and in front of a microphone was really easy. But if you do like video, if you love shooting videos, good audio will make your videos even better. So if you think it's okay, just have your phone there and do a video. That's all right under certain circumstances. But if you want to increase the quality of the video, you just got to work on one, your lighting, but also the sound. And it's less complicated, the video too. So it's easy to hook up a few things, even with your phone, hook a microphone up to it and talk. Whereas video, you worry about the lighting, the shine on your head. What shirt am I wearing? Is my makeup right? This is more for you, Jim, than me. But there's so many other things. Now, how many times have we gone to do the podcast? And because we do video as well, which if people want to go and check it out, go to YouTube and look up Podiatry Marketing, and you'll actually get to watch the videos of us. And the videos aren't edited as much as I edit the audio, I don't think.
No, they're not edited as much. And definitely the first, I would say, couple months we were doing the podcast, I think I was using a microphone. It wasn't that great. The audio quality has definitely improved since we've gotten these microphones. So there's definitely ways to improve the sound, and it also helps, with the video as well.
Yeah, but I always say to people, if you go to the Podiatry Marketing YouTube channel or mine, Tyson E. Franklin, you go look at the earliest videos I ever shot. I look at them now and I go, was I on some form of drug or something when I did them? They were just, everything about them is terrible. But that's what stops people doing them, is how sometimes video is so complicated, whereas audio is just really, really simple. Audio also reaches people while they're doing other things. This is the power of it. So you could be going for a run. Like I was at the gym this morning doing weights, as you can tell by the video, I'm a beast. But while I was doing weights, I had audio playing. I was listening to a podcast, listening to recordings. You can drive and listen to audio. It's more difficult to watch a video while you're driving. Not that I haven't done it, but it's more difficult, and I don't recommend that to anybody. Audio also brings people together. This is something people don't realize, that there will be people who, from the time we've started this podcast, who listen to us every single week. There'll be some that only ever listen to us once and never come back. But there'll be people that listen, they're regular listeners. They actually have a connection with us. And I know, and you've experienced this too, Jim, when we go somewhere and we'll bump into people and they'll say, oh, yeah, I love the banter you and Jim have. I love how you give Jim a lot of trouble sometimes on the podcast.
I deserve it. For sure.
But it's one of those things. People listen to you on a regular basis and they get to know you. They get to know a little bit about your personality, little stories that you're telling. And over a period of time, they get to know you more than you actually realize. And audio is also a fantastic way to train your team. So if you want them to learn something or know something, record it. Sometimes it's just as easy for them to listen to it, maybe while they're running or driving or doing something else. And we used to use this with our patients a lot. So I sold my clinic 9 years ago, but prior to that, we were still using CDs. I would say to patients, do you have a CD player? They go, yeah, in the car. I go, here's a CD with the orthotic instructions I've just told you, but I want you to put it in your car and listen to it again. And I go, that cost me $1. I don't care if you throw it away. If you want to bring it back at the review, by all means, bring it back for review. There's a few extra special things on there that you're going to want to listen to. And that was so easy to produce, so easy to get made. Now, these days, people I don't have a CD player in my car, I don't think. Have you got one?
No, I don't.
Yeah. So that is an idea that worked many years ago. Won't work so much now. This is the other part. Oh, do you want to comment on anything before I go any further?
No, those are good points. I don't have anything to comment on right now.
Okay. So the other part you got to realize too is audio can create an emotion. So if you're using it, you can combine it with some different sounds to make people feel a certain way. Rain will actually make people feel relaxed. So if you had a bit of noise of rain, I could put a sound effect in there later on. That will actually make people feel relaxed. Thunder actually creates anxiety. So it's just being aware, if you're going to use sound in the background of what it is that you're actually producing your audio, be aware of what emotion it may actually cause. So fireworks is like nostalgia. But even some audio, you can create brand recognition. So it's like McDonald's. For example, I've done this at some of my marketing workshops. I've just gone, okay, see if anyone recognizes this. And I go, dun 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 dun. And everyone knows it's McDonald's. So it doesn't matter how you do it. Even if you do the whistle, everybody knows that is McDonald's. So you can actually create a brand recognition with a sound. And we did this with my podiatry clinic. We had our own jingle that was done. I won't sing it right now, even though I do know it word for word. But if people ever want to request it from me, if we meet in person, just ask. But it did start with, if sore feet are a problem. That was the words for it. But we had a certain beat that eventually we could be playing something or create another audio, and we would just have that playing in the background. And patients would say, we knew straight away that that was your podiatry clinic just by the brand recognition from the sound.
Yeah, it's crazy how that can happen. Just a few notes, and you just have something pop into your mind because of the audio cues.
Yeah, well, imagine if you're anywhere, and especially if you're swimming in the ocean, and someone goes, boom, 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 straight away, everyone knows
Getting out of the water.
you're getting out of the water. I remember, actually, a side story. I remember when we went and saw Jaws when it first came out, and straight after seeing Jaws, we were at the Gold Coast at Surfers Paradise. We all went in the surf, and I think we all lasted about 45 seconds before we had to get out. It was just, all it took was one person to go boom, 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 and we just did it. No more swimming today.
No, for sure.
So where to start with all this really comes down, depends what you're planning to use audio for. That's the important part. You don't just go, oh, I'm going to do audio. Think about where you may want to use audio in your business. So if it's just for, you can use it for team training, you could put it into social media. But to do that, you need to create like an audiogram if you want to post it, because you can't just post an audio file into social media. It doesn't work that way. You could add it to your website, which is what I used to do. I used to write blog articles, and I still do it on my Tyson Franklin website. There's still a few blog articles there way down if you can find them. But I would write the blog article, and then I would just record the audio as well, and I would just put that in there. It was more of a test run just to see if it would work. Or you could actually start a podcast. There's too many podiatry podcasts already, so we don't need another podiatry podcast. But I think every podiatry business, somebody asked me once, Tyson, if you were starting a podiatry clinic tomorrow, what's your number one marketing tool? What would you do? And one of my first things that I would put the time and effort into would be creating a podcast in my local town. I'd do a small business podcast sponsored by XYZ Podiatry, because that would be the business owned. And I would interview business people, short 20-minute podcast, and I'll be putting it out there, whether it was once a month or once a week. So, yes. Any comments, Jim?
No, I think it's a great idea. I think if you get to be, I think there's different reasons why people do podcasts. Obviously, we're trying to do the podiatry marketing podcast to be, world famous, because there's just so many people who want to listen about podiatry marketing.
That's why we did it. It's for the money. It's for the chicks.
But I really like I like your idea though, because it just helps you get to know people in your local community. You build trust with people. You know about their business. They know about yours. It's just a real networking tool and a way to connect you with, potential referral sources, but just a way to, build trust in the local community and provide value to other people. So I really like that idea.
Yeah, the thing with it is, and this comes back to what I said before, where you connect with people on an emotional level, and you have regular listeners. If you did a podcast in your local town, and like I said, it could be like, you could do a health podcast or something like that if you wanted to, but I don't think as many people are going to listen to it, because if my dentist is doing one on teeth and gum disease, I'm not interested. But if my dentist was interviewing other business people in town, I'd be going, oh, actually, I might tune in there and see what I think. And if I liked it, I would keep coming back and listening to it. But where it has a benefit is once people are listening to it on a regular basis in your local town, if you then went to a networking event and you just said, hi, I'm Tyson Franklin, they go, oh, do you have the Can Small Business podcast? You go, yes. Straight away, they've got this connection with you. They want to know more about your podiatry business. They are going to refer people to you because they know who you are, because they've got to know, like, and trust you over a period of time.
Absolutely.
Audio is so sexy, if you ask me. So anyway, the important part is, what do you need? And on episode 39, we actually did a podcast episode about hardware and software. But just to review it quickly, You can record just using your smartphone if that's what you want to do. But you just need to make sure you have like a microphone attached to it. Don't just use the phone. It's a little bit echoey.
Sure.
You can record just using your computer. And there's free software like GarageBand, Audacity. I use paid software from Adobe. Just gives you a lot more buttons that can confuse you that you can play around with. But I recommend start with the free ones and see what you think. And if you're getting it, you go, I'm actually really enjoying this. Then move to the paid one. With your smartphone too, there's the app that I used to use a lot was called Voice Record. And I think it was a free app as well. And it does some great recordings. The next thing is you want a good microphone. So if you're going to do an awesome podcast like Jim and I, then you want to have a good microphone. We both now have the Shure MV7. I think we have the same one, don't we?
We do.
I used to have Audio Technica 210 or something, and then I got microphone envy when Jim switched over to the Shure MV7, and we did that episode. Next thing, Jim was just sounding so smooth. And I'm like, my God, Jim, what have you done there? He goes, I have a new microphone. How good do I sound? You sound like trash. And I must admit, that
out loud.
But I've gone back to some of the original ones when I thought my Audio Technica microphone was great. And I'll listen back to them now and I go, wow, you can really hear the difference. But at the time, it is what it is. So if you don't have a Shure MV7 microphone, then don't worry about it. Just use whatever you've got. I also use DJI microphones on different occasions when I'm out and about and traveling. So the main part is just get a good quality recording. You can then play around with the noise a little bit when you're doing the editing.
Absolutely.
Other hardware that you and I use, I use an external recorder, a PodTrack P4, which is a Zoom product. So the next thing you need to know though is what you need, your hardware and your software, which I've just covered. If you're going to record something, it's always good to have a script that you're going to follow, or at least some dot points to keep you on track. Nothing worse than listening to a recording and there's just too much rambling on. And you don't know what you're actually going to say next. Even though Jim and I do that occasionally, but you may never know. We may have that scripted. No, we don't.
No, but I think that's a great point. There's a kind of a happy medium between being over scripted, where it sounds like you're just reading. You're just it sounds very tight, and maybe you just need to do that to kind of on the first couple just to feel comfortable on the microphone. But after a while, having an outline where you have some license, you kind of have a bit of some guardrails. So you're not going to go off into left field or just kind of completely go off the side of the cliff. But you can kind of add a little bit of something. But the outline, having some point by points that you want to make, can be a great way to kind of help guide you through a conversation or guide you through maybe a point or an audio file you want to create.
Yeah, whenever I've done a solo episode on Podiatry Legends, most of that, almost the whole script is written out. Sometimes I just have dot points in certain areas, but majority of the script is followed, and I'm reading it, but I don't just I don't read it word for word. I sort of know what I've got there, and I try and just get it to flow.
Mm-hmm.
But like you said, if you need to just read the script, continue, read it, record it, and then listen back to it. And if it sounds like you're reading, just go and re-record it. Nobody will know that you've done it 10 times. So some of the scripts, when I do videos, I do videos every week, but I still, the amount of mistakes that I make is just incredible. And you have to redo it because all of a sudden your arms are thrown up in the air, which
curse words, yell at the dog, all kinds of stuff.
The curse words is just unbelievable. So the other thing you need, editing software, which sometimes can be the same stuff you use for recording. So Adobe Audition that I edit this podcast on, I used to use to record it. When I do a solo show, I actually record directly into that particular program. Okay. Then no matter what you record, it's then saved as an MP3. And then from there, that's how you then upload it. And when I'm talking upload, if you're going to post it into social media, to it. You need what they call a media host. You can't just grab that MP3 and go and dump it onto Facebook. Facebook will go, no, thank you. I don't want that. So you must have a media host. I use Libsyn, which is a paid one. But every media host usually has a free version that you can use. So Podbean, for example, when I was talking before that I used to upload some audio onto my website, I used to just use the free Podbean version. It lets you record 50 megabyte or something per month at no charge. So if you're doing these small 3-4 minute little audio things, it doesn't chew up the space. For this podcast, we use Transistor.
Yep, that's what we use.
Yeah, be great if they were a sponsor.
Maybe someday.
So then once you have your media host and you've uploaded your MP3 file, what the media host will actually give you is what they call an embedded audio link. And that's what you post into the social media platform. So if you're on Facebook and you've seen somebody post just an audio file there, you've listened to it, that's all it's basically coming from is one of those media hosts. You can then post it into your website. You can then create an audiogram, which we spoke about on episode 45. And that's where you'll take the audio, an image, and you just put the two things together and you create a video. So if you're not comfortable in front of a video camera, but you might want to talk about heel pain, you might have 3 or 4 different images of heel pain. You put those images together, put the audio over the top, and just create like an audio room, create a video without you necessarily being in it.
Absolutely.
So the last thing I just want to touch on is just on podcasting again. And in episode 38, I spoke about podcast marketing, is using a podcast to market your podiatry clinic. But also in episode 48, talked about podcast guesting. So you can have your own podcast or you can be a guest on other people's podcasts. And this is where, if you really think about audio and you don't do anything else other than, you might go, I just want to be a guest on other people's podcasts, which is a fantastic thing to do. It's really good for your social proof. You need a good microphone. Majority of the guests that I have on Podiatry Legends, majority of the sound is okay. I have some that are exceptional, but most are okay. The audio is just okay. It's nothing really good. And I've had some of them say to me, go, oh, you always sound so good on the microphone, on the podcast, and I sound a bit tinny. And I go, it's because you were tinny. And I've tried to make you sound better by adjusting a few things. So if you want to be on podcasts on a regular basis, just spend some money and get a decent microphone. I think this Shure MV7, $300 or something, it's like 300 Australian, which is almost free in American dollars.
Yeah, I think it's down to because it's a couple $100 now. US.
Yeah, so if you're thinking about being a guest, one, you need a good microphone. Choose the right shows that you're going to go on to. So if you want to build your profile and build your brand, just choose really good shows. And like I said, every time you're on a podcast and it's put out there into the big online world, it does build your social proof. I think, and I mentioned it before, that podcasting is the cheapest marketing tool you will ever create, because once you do that podcast, there's just so many things you can actually do with it. Having your own podcast, I think early adopters will dominate, even though podcasting's been around since 2004, 21 years. There's still so much room there for people to have their own podcast in their local area and create something that is really going to build your podiatry brand.
And I think it's a huge opportunity. Like you talked about the local podcast with other local businesses. It's such a huge opportunity for someone to get into a market and get to be known in a way that just other clinics or other providers aren't willing to do. So I think like you said, there's a first mover advantage for someone that's willing to do something like a local podcast.
Yeah, and it's not complicated. Creating a podcast is not complicated at all, and it's far less expensive than what you think. Just comes down to whether you're doing a solo show, whether you're doing a duo, one like Jim and I, or if you can have podcast guests on. That will just determine how complicated it gets and what you need, but it's still not overly expensive. But it is one of those things that's not for everyone. Not everyone's got, I'd say majority of people listening to this will never have their own podcast, but you should be thinking about where you can use audio, because I think it is a fantastic tool. And the other part is all the audio you create creates part of your IP. There's actually value. It adds value to your podiatry business. So even if you have a lot of your training manuals and you got them recorded them so that people could listen back to them at certain times, just adds value to your clinic. If down the track you ever want to sell your business, imagine selling your business, but you're also the number one small business podcast, for example, in your area. It just adds value to what it is that you're doing. So that's all I have to say on this subject, Jim.
No, I love all the technical stuff, right? I love the toys and the tools and that kind of stuff. But like you said, audio is super important. It's obviously the most, it seems kind of counterintuitive, but it's the most important part of any video. If you ever watched a video on YouTube and it's crappy audio, you're probably moving on to the next video. So, having this, like you said, having kind of a system, having good tools and knowing how to use it appropriately can be a huge benefit to any practice.
Yeah, and if anybody wants to know or wants to talk about this further, please reach out to Jim or I and just say, hey, can you give me some more information on improving my audio? Because it is one of the things I've trained a couple of podiatrists to have their own their podcast shows. One particular podiatrist flew to Cairns and spent the day with me, and we created the whole podcast, did everything all in that one day. And then they went off and did something with it, and had another podiatrist that we were both at an airport together for 6 hours. And he said, always wanted to have my own podcast. What are you doing for the next 6 hours? So we sat in the Qantas Lounge bar and had a few drinks while we set up the whole platform, what he was actually going to do, what he needed to record. I showed him the equipment that I had because I had my stuff with me. And just reach out to us if you need help.
Absolutely.
Okay, Big Jim, that is it for me this week. I look forward to talking again next week.
Sounds great, Tyson.
Okay, talk to you later. Bye.
Bye now.